Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsadevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsadevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsadevaya. Continuing studying Srimad Bhagavatam, translated with commentaries by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is Canto 6, Chapter 5, Text 23. Narada Muni has imparted his instructions to the 1,000 sons of Prajapati Daksha. They have accepted him as their spiritual master, and Narada has instructed them to go against the orders of their father. Prajapati Daksha has as his service to populate the universe, which means creating a lot of progeny, which means heavy involvement in family life, maintaining home and wife, or even wives and children, a lot of involvement with the material energy. Narada Muni saw that the boys had performed so many nice austerities and had been praying to Lord Vishnu and had made a lot of advancement in detachment from the material world, material situation. He instructed them, don't follow what your father is asking you to do. Just continue on this path. Go back home. Go back to Godhead. Become fully engaged in devotional service. And Krishna will protect you. And they've accepted Narada's instructions. This is text 23. The Haryasvas, the sons of Prajapati Daksha, were very well-behaved, cultured sons. But, unfortunately, because of the instructions of Narada Muni, they deviated from the order of their father. When Daksha heard this news, which was brought to him by Narada Muni, he began to lament. Although he was the father of such good sons, he had lost them all. Certainly this was lamentable. Prabhupada's commentary. The Haryasvas, the sons of Prajapati Daksha, were certainly well-behaved, learned, and advanced, and, in accordance with the order of their father, they went to perform austerities, to beget good sons for their family. But Narada Muni took advantage of their good behavior and culture to properly direct them, not to be involved with this material world, but to use their culture and knowledge to end their material affairs. The Haryasvas abided by the orders of Narada Muni. But when news of this was brought to Prajapati Daksha, the Prajapati, instead of being happy with the actions of Narada Muni, was extremely sorrowful. Similarly, we're trying to bring as many young men as possible to the Krishna consciousness movement for their ultimate benefit. But the parents of the young men joining this movement, being very sorry, are lamenting and making counter-propaganda. Of course, Prajapati Daksha did not make propaganda against Narada Muni, but later, as we shall see, Daksha cursed Narada Muni for his benevolent activities. This is the way of materialistic life. A materialistic father and mother want to engage their sons in begetting children, striving for improved economic conditions, and rotting in materialistic life. They are not unhappy when their children become spoiled, useless citizens, but they lament when they join the Krishna consciousness movement to achieve the ultimate goal of life. This animosity between parents and the Krishna consciousness movement has existed since time immemorial. Even Narada Muni was condemned, not to speak of others. Nevertheless, Narada Muni never gives up his mission. To deliver as many fallen souls as possible, he continues playing his musical instrument and vibrating the transcendental sound, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yes, there are always these types of opposition from the materialistic persons, because their goal is to advance in material amenities, to try to enjoy material life. So they remain attached to conception of the self as being a material body. And when the representative of the Lord comes to engage the family members in going back home, back to Godhead, becoming freed from the false identification of a material connection based on the body only, then there's conflict. Prabhupada says that's from time immemorial. This goes on. We can see with Prajapati Daksha, instead of being grateful that all of his sons had gone home back to Godhead, which means he gets the benefit. When the children take up Krishna consciousness and become advanced spiritually, many, many generations in their family line, going all the way back to their predecessors and their ancestors, all get benefit. They all get spiritual benefit. Prajapati Daksha is not concerned with that. His goal is simply to propagate, to become the big populator of the universe. Everyone emanating from him, as Krishna says, everyone and everything emanates from me. And here we see Prajapati Daksha wants everyone and everything to emanate from him. Perverted reflection. He does have Lord Vishnu's blessings to do this, because this is toward the beginning of the creation, and the universe does need to be populated. He does have Krishna's okay on this. But there are higher principles of religion. We see this constantly. This is the theme. Persons who are on a lesser level of religious principles not recognizing the benefit of the higher principle. And the higher principle is always, always, always to simply surrender to Krishna. Sarvadaman parityaccha mamikam saranam vraja ham tvam sarva pavibhyo mokshayishami masuchaha. Krishna promises he will protect such a person who simply surrenders to him. The goal of life. These boys had been instructed by Narada Muni, spiritual master in our line of disciplic succession, coming from Lord Brahma himself, to simply surrender to Krishna. Prajapati Daksha is not happy about this. And Prabhupada is explaining here that he runs into the same difficulty, as Prabhupada is a spiritual master in line from Narada Muni. Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya, coming originally from Lord Brahma down through Narada Muni, Srila Vyāsadeva, Madhvacharya, down through our line of disciplic succession, coming to Srila Prabhupada. Same difficulties are there for Prabhupada as for Narada Muni, in that the parents are not happy. When the children take instruction from the bona fide spiritual master and give up materialistic way of life and take to Krishna consciousness. Nevertheless, Prabhupada continues, Narada Muni never gives up his mission, which is to deliver as many fallen souls as possible. He continues playing his musical instrument and vibrating the transcendental sound. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Text 24. When Prajapati Daksha was lamenting for his lost children, Lord Brahma pacified him with instructions. And thereafter Daksha begot 1,000 more children in the womb of his wife Panchajani. This time his sons were known as the Savalasvas. Okay, I need to make a correction here. The first group of children, the Haryasvas, was not 1,000, it was 10,000 sons. 10,000 boys. The Haryasvas, and they were known collectively as the Haryasvas. Narada Muni got them all to go back home, back to Godhead, all 10,000. Lord Brahma, in this verse, pacified him with further instructions, and Daksha then begot 1,000 more in the womb of his wife, Panchajani. This time, the 1,000 sons were known as Savalasvas. Prabhupada's commentary. Prajapati Daksha was so named because he was very expert in begetting children. The word Daksha means expert. First, he begot 10,000 children in the womb of his wife. And when the children were lost, when they returned home back to Godhead, he begot another set of children, known as the Savalasvas. Prajapati Daksha is very expert in begetting children. Narada Muni is very expert in delivering all the conditioned souls back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, the materialistic experts do not agree with the spiritual expert Narada Muni. But this does not mean that Narada Muni will give up his engagement of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Praja means the living entities. The Praja, Prajapati, Daksha, the one who begets the living entities. Daksha means expert. So there are two experts here. One is expert in engaging in material activity, and the other is expert in delivering living entities from the material situation. Two diametrically opposed activities going on here. Narada Muni is based on the higher religious principle. It's not that Prajapati Daksha is a demon. He's not a demon. He's just engaged on a lesser spiritual level. He's being encouraged by Lord Brahma to continue to try to populate the universe. Of course, it's Prajapati Daksha's desire also. He is doing this out of his desire to do this and to offer the results of his activities as service to Krishna. That's on a little bit of a lesser level than directly surrendering to Krishna and going back home, back to Godhead, having nothing to do with management or population or anything. Just go back home, back to Godhead. Last life, that's it. Because actually that's the goal for all living entities. So if someone reaches that goal, they don't have to become involved in all these other things. This is what saved Ajamil. Although he had been engaged in actually demoniac activities, actually sinful activities, we won't say he was a demon, but he was very, very fallen and sinful. And although he had been engaged in breaking every single rule meant for civilized human life, and he was due some huge, huge punishment and reactions for all his transgressions of the natural laws, he made contact with devotional service by the representatives of Lord Vishnu who came directly from Vaikuntha when Ajamil called out without offense the holy name of the Lord. He contacted a higher religious principle. He acted on the level of pure devotional service, the goal of life. There was no need for him to be taken to the court of Yamaraj and punished for all his transgressions, because he had engaged on the platform of the highest religious principle. He was immediately transferred to the spiritual world. Actually, he was given a little bit of a time period. He was supposed to have died at that point, left his body, but he was given a little bit of an extension, and he used that to go to a holy place and prepare himself for transference to Vaikuntha. He was completely transformed by coming into contact with the representatives of pure devotional service. We see that's the same theme here for the Haryasvas, the 10,000 sons. They were preparing to engage in materialistic activity on the order of their father, which is following religious principles. They were going to beget nice children to help with populating the universe and managing universal affairs. Very nice service. But there's a higher religious principle, which is what Narada Muni brought to them. And that higher religious principle is to simply surrender to Krishna. Those on the lesser level of religious activities don't always agree with the representatives coming from the higher plane because of their attachment material attachment, very passionate about what they want to do. They have their goals all set. So it takes a little time for such persons to become free from this passionate endeavor. Usually, they have to be frustrated in their passionate attempts to be able to make some advancement. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with Prajapati Daksha. They're actually brothers. They're both sons of Lord Brahma. They're actually brothers. Narada Muni is the son of Lord Brahma, and Prajapati Daksha is also. A little bit of a conflict here. And Lord Brahma is giving instructions to Daksha to go ahead and propagate. And every time Daksha tries to propagate, his brother comes and scoops up the kids, takes them back home, back to Godhead. Daksha is going to try again, and now he's produced another 1,000 sons. Text 25. In accordance with their father's order to beget children, the second group of sons also went to Narayana Saras, the same place where their brothers had previously attained perfection by following the instructions of Narada. Undertaking great vows of austerity, the Savalasvas remained at that holy place. I have to say here, these 1,000 sons, the Savalasvas, are doing the same thing their brothers did, the Haryasvas. We can expect they'll also be delivered by Narada Muni. Prabhupada's commentary. Prajapati Daksha sent his second group of sons to the same place where his previous sons had attained perfection. He did not hesitate to send his second group of sons to the same place, although they too might become victims of Narada's instructions. According to the Vedic culture, one should be trained in spiritual understanding as a brahmachari before entering household life to beget children. This is the Vedic system. We can see that Prajapati Daksha is not a demon. He's following Vedic culture. He's concerned that his sons should have good training before they enter household life, and he's preparing them nicely. He's not a demon. He's following the instructions of Lord Brahma. However, this is on a lesser platform of religious principle. Narada Muni is on the highest platform. Narada Muni is advocating and presenting and giving opportunity to engage in pure devotional service. Daksha sent his children to get some training in brahmachari life before entering household life, so they would have nice children. Prabhupada continues. Thus, Prajapati Daksha sent his second group of sons for cultural improvement, despite the risk that because of the instructions of Narada, they might become as intelligent as their older brothers. As a dutiful father, he did not hesitate to allow his sons to receive cultural instructions concerning the perfection of life. He depended upon them to choose whether to return home back to Godhead or to rot in this material world in various species of life. In all circumstances, the duty of the father is to give cultural education to his sons, who might later decide which way to go. Responsible fathers should not hinder their sons who are making cultural advancement in association with the Krishna consciousness movement. This is not a father's duty. The duty of a father is to give his son complete freedom to make his choice after becoming spiritually advanced by following the instructions of the spiritual master. Sometimes people, they argue, aren't you forcing your religious views on your children? Shouldn't you give them the choice? Yes, definitely everyone should have their own choice of whether to surrender or not, and how to surrender. Here Prabhupada is explaining that the children should be given cultural education so they can actually make an intelligent choice. If the children don't receive any religious training or cultural education, spiritual guidance as they're growing up, then actually there will be no choice. They haven't really been given the opportunity to make a choice. So in order to actually be in a position where a young adult can actually make a choice, they have to receive some cultural education as they're growing up. Then the choice is, do I follow this or do I follow something else? What do I do with my life? But I have been given some education, some training in the goal of life. So that's the duty of the father, is to give the son complete freedom to make his choice after becoming spiritually advanced by following instructions of a spiritual master. Then the son is actually in the position to actually make a choice. Daksha is doing the right thing here. He's acting as a dutiful father. He made sure that they got cultural instructions concerning the perfection of life, and then depended upon them to choose whether to go back home, back to Godhead, or to rot in the material world, various species of life. The previous group of sons, the Haryasvas, the 10,000 boys, they chose to go home back to Godhead, not to rot in the material world. Prajapati Daksha actually became sad. He felt he had lost his sons. And we have to say that that's a natural feeling, because there is natural affection for a parent and their children. We see that in the Lord's pastimes, when Lord Chaitanya, Krishna Chaitanya, took sannyas, his mother, Mother Sachi, who was a widow, and he was her only son, became overwhelmed with grief that she was losing her son. It's natural to feel like that they've been lost. But it's also a great joy to know that the children have made such wonderful spiritual advancement and are going back home, back to Godhead. The parents should be very, very happy in that sense, although in an immediate sense, they may feel some lack, something missing. They may feel that sadness. Having family means to try to continually expand the family, more and more children. This is how we try to enjoy in the material world, big family. When the children don't take this path up, try to expand the material family by producing children, and it's a little sad for those that are materially motivated to have big family. They're frustrated. They may feel some loneliness. But the choice to go back home, back to Godhead, really takes one into the really big family. The one not based on the material body, the one not subject to birth, death, old age, and disease, the one not subject to Alzheimer's, heart disease, cancer, multiple sclerosis, diabetes, all the different maladies that attack the material body, which ultimately has to succumb to death, and then that's the end of the big family. Who knows what the next big family will be, depending on the activities of the person, the soul. It could be a big family of hogs or giraffes or mosquitoes, cockroaches that have huge families. The really big family is in the spiritual sky with Krishna. Not always easy to accept that. And when someone does go out of the material platform of activities, then those that are still active on the material plane or lesser plane of religious and spiritual life, they feel sad. But the really sad thing is those that stay on the material plane. That's actually the sad thing, not those that go back home back to Godhead. That's the blissful thing. Text 26. At Narayanassaras, the second group of sons performed penances in the same way as the first. They bathed in the holy water, and by its touch all the dirty material desires in their hearts were cleansed away. They murmured mantras beginning with Omkara and underwent a severe course of austerities. Prabhupada's commentary. Every Vedic mantra is called Brahma because each mantra is preceded by the Brahmakshara, Om or Omkara. For example, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7:8, Pranava Sarva Vedeshu. Quote, in all the Vedic mantras, I am represented by Pranava or Omkara. End quote. Thus, chanting of the Vedic mantras beginning with Omkara is directly chanting of Krishna's name. There is no difference. Whether one chants Omkara or addresses the Lord as Krishna, the meaning is the same. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has recommended that in this age, one chant the Hare Krishna mantra, Harinama Eva Kevalam. Although there's no difference between Hare Krishna and the Vedic mantras beginning with Omkar, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the leader of the spiritual movement for this age, has recommended that one chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai. There's no difference between Omkara and Krishna. The meaning is the same. Krishna is present in the Omkara. Everything is meant for Krishna. All these mantras and all these prayers, they're ultimately meant for Krishna. And Krishna is present because each of these mantras begins with Om. That immediately calls on the Supreme Lord Himself, personality of Godhead. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Bhurabhuva Swatat Sarvatavarenyam. Krishna is represented by that Om, immediately coming in contact with Krishna through the Om. However, Prabhupada explains here that in this age is recommended to chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna. This has the special potency of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement is present in this Hare Krishna mantra for spreading Krishna consciousness. Chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and chanting Vedic mantras which are preceded with the Omkara are non-different. However, Lord Chaitanya has requested and recommended to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Time, place, and circumstance.